Barry. The full spoilers ahead, everyone who's listening. But yeah, this episode of Barry, the sort of dream slash purgatory hallucination, whatever you want to call it. It's not something the show's really done typically. We had in the first season where he would recount, his memories, and we would have sort of like flashbacks cutting back and forth. But like this was straight up, like dreamlike sequences or something. And I didn't realize it until he walked outside and the water was coming up the street, and I was like, oh, okay, I know what they're doing here. But yeah, that all leading to him basically being saved by one of the. It was gonna be a victim. Ryan Madison's father saves him, taking his own life at the end of the episode. But it was odd that was the one guy that Barry didn't kill. He was gonna, but Hank and them beat him to it. But as far as that aspect of the show, and this is Pulp Mythos if you're new to the channel. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer. And yes, we're talking about Barry, Season 3, Episode 7. But yeah, what'd you guys think of about that aspect of the show? It was when he was on the beach and everybody was looking out and you heard the sounds in the background, like that was some almost Lovecraftian vibes to me. It was real creepy, but I thought it was really well done.
It was, at first I wasn't sure what it was. Like you caught on sooner than I did with the water coming to the street. I just thought the house was way too close to the ocean or something. But it did have like sort of a culty vibe. I thought there was like a cult on that beach or something. But then, once, like you said, once you got to see the people's faces and, said, oh, these are his victims and everything, it makes you wonder if, like you said, you see where they're going here, but towards the end of this season, are we going for like a pivot in Barry's personality or a change in who he is as a person, as a result of this? Because, this whole season's been about him reflecting on the people that he's killed in the past.
Yeah, he's not just him considering who all he's killed, because the body count, holy shit, how many people were on that beach? He's killed a fuck ton of people. But I think that throughout the first 3 seasons, he's been transitioning. He's trying to get away from it, but he doesn't know how to deal with certain aspects of his life. So even in season 1, when shit started to go awry, he just kind of fell back on Fuchs. And then season 2, once again, things started to go awry, and he finally felt like he could get away from Fuchs, but he couldn't get away from his own anger. He couldn't get away from himself. He turned real dark by the end of season 2. And then throughout this season, it's like he's trying to find himself and deal with all the demons that not everybody sees. Obviously Fuchs sees, but there is some, I don't know, like almost hints that he's going to turn. But I think what would be a funny little twist is if he ended up being because we keep talking about how the FBI and CIA are going to figure it out, and then they're going to end up using him. To me, that would be a great little twist if they ended up recruiting him because they know what he's capable of, and we talked about it before, the Brubaker novel, where he's going around just killing Hollywood's pieces of shit.
Yeah, I think the near-death experience, definitely, if they want to sort of reset his character, they could do it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And they've set that up. But I think going also with what you just said, Spencer, you have, the ending of the episode, Fuchs is brought in, and first of all, how twisted Fuchs is, how proud he is of Barry and the way he used him. But Albert in this interrogation seems to realize, like, put all the pieces together, and he sort of storms out. I still don't know what he's going to do or what his intention is. In his mind, Barry did help save his life, but even then Barry, Snap did a horrible thing, which he's well aware of. Who knows what kind of shit he's involved in, being, I think he's an FBI or whatever agent. So yeah, like you said, Spencer, what if they end up bringing Barry in and they're like, we could use a guy like you? I don't know if it's going to go that route, but I mean, hell,
They-
it could.
I mean, I don't know any confidential informants personally on any kind of personal level, but I mean, you see it all the time. There is, I don't want to say real life shows, but shows that are much more accurate as opposed to this one, where CIs basically are undercover cops that they don't have to keep on the books. And they could almost use him to do whatever they wanted, Mission Impossible style, off the books kind of thing. And I think that would be an interesting kind of take on it, a different twist, but I'm not sure what else they could do because with all the Bolivian stuff that's coming up, they're going to have to recruit some firepower and I'm not saying that the FBI doesn't have firepower, but I'm talking about going across state lines, going to Bolivia. I could see this season 4 taking place in Bolivia. Like it's one of those.
Being like a born
Yeah.
born identity or something. Yeah.
That could be pretty cool. Yeah, because it doesn't seem like Hank's gonna solve whatever his issue. The whole God, I'm forgetting his name right now. Cristobal. I almost merged like 3 different names. Like
I should have let you.
I was about
I'm
to say
curious to what you were gonna say.
I was gonna say Esteban. I was gonna say I don't know what else. Yeah, but but yeah, the whole Cristobal thing doesn't feel like it's going to be solved in one episode, and that's what we got, right?
2. We are 2. Our shit. You might be. Hold on. 1 or 2.
I think there's only 8 episodes this season. It's listed like 9, but it's already got season 4 up.
Yeah, you're right. 8. Yeah, shit. There's 1 left.
Yeah, so it seems like kind of implausible. Then again, it's Barry. They could certainly pull it off, but it doesn't seem likely that that's going to get solved in the finale. We'll maybe get setups for next season with Hank, but I don't see that being resolved right away. There's too much. Hank's not gonna. But shit, maybe Hank will surprise us. We've never seen him pull off things, but he's earned his rank somehow, right? Or maybe he just lucked into it. I mean, we've seen him so far in the show be a character like Big Head in Silicon Valley, where he just kind of lucks into shit. So maybe that has been his whole career. But maybe
Fredo.
You're gonna say who?
Fredo.
Yeah.
Godfather.
Maybe, but maybe Hank does have some level of competency, but typically doesn't like to get his hands dirty. That I'd love to see next episode.
Yeah. Speaking of Hank, that dart scene was just golden.
Yeah.
Like the guy is slowly putting it together, and Hank's just sort of smiling, looking at him, and then he's just like, "Yep, you know what? That's exactly what I thought you were gonna do." But like you said, Hank is now he's captured. He's in a really bad spot. How's all this going to work out? They have 1 episode before the finale. It is getting another season, so obviously they can end it on a cliffhanger, and it'll have resolution. Unlike another show from HBO, Raised by Wolves.
Fuck you.
Yeah, but they're going to get another season, and so. Any other thoughts on where they're going with Hank? It's been sort of Hank light the last couple episodes.
I think his number 2 is playing him, because he's supposedly captured as well in the next room over.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't seen him at all. We haven't, we just heard him through the wall. So I think he's playing him because we had hints episode 1 that he was already suspicious about, him and Cristobal and, and Hank's leadership skills. So he may be working with them against Hank.
I think that he's one of those irreplaceable characters. I mean, there's a lot of characters on the show that, to me, could easily be gone, and I know we're going to talk about a couple of them. But NoHo, Hank, and Barry's interaction with each other, the chemistry between those two, it's what helps make the show. Bill Hader is genius, and I think I think it's Anthony Carrigan, I think is the NoHo Hank's real name. But those two together help make the show. Now, if he would have never been on the show, I still would have enjoyed it. I still would have liked it. I love Bill Hader, but it wouldn't be the same now. Have watching the episodes with him without him. I don't think that he's one that could be done away with.
Similar to like Better Call Saul, like I would absolutely be for a Hank prequel series. You know, giving us a lead up to the Barry series. Like you could do it. You know, if they did it in the next few years, you know, he's not going to age that much, and you could have, you know, whatever crazy things he's up to. Like I think it could absolutely work with that character, and you know, do, you know, 4 or 5 episodes. It doesn't have to be a massive series, but hopefully they'll do more with that character because, yeah, he's just, I mean, hell, he's a great character.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's like you say, more Hank would be appreciated. Couldn't imagine the show without him. You know, but if there is a betrayal, I think we're potentially, you know, splitting the Chechens into 2 factions at this point. Heck, possibly the Bolivians, because you know, if Cristobal gets out and you know that manages to split their factions also.
Yeah, it ended up being 3 factions: Cristobal and Hank's faction, the Bolivians, and then the Chechens.
That'd be cool.
That'd be awesome.
Janice's father. You know, this leads into the end. He's the one that turns in Fuchs. At first, he's, you know, working with the cops. He was of the belief that, yeah, you know, this is the Raven or whatever. This is the guy. And then he goes in and, based on the things he hears, he starts to question it. So he goes to Gene Cousineau personally, has a talk with him. We know that he has a background in interrogation, and he's really good at it. And he, based on what it appears, him seeing the sweat on the forehead, that Barry is the guy. And so that's an X factor. I don't know what the hell happens with that. You know, he's going to go. I mean, everybody's headed to Barry. Barry's at the hospital recovering. We have Albert heading there. Janice's father might be heading there. I don't know. But yeah, where do you think they're going with this story? Because it was just introduced a couple episodes back.
Well, my thought on it is that you know, her father, he's going there, you know, he's going to do very much what we expect. You know, he's going to attack and torture Barry, and he's going to be successful about it. He's probably going to try to get him to confess to certain things, you know. But because we were wondering, like, okay, why are they framing him with these tools? And that's why. But, you know, I think that Albert is going there to, you know, sort of pay forward what Barry did for him during their time in the military, that he's giving him one chance, one out, because that's what Barry gave him.
Well, I think building off of what you just said, I think very, very easily this could turn into the Taekwondo Olympian where it's not even Barry that ends up taking out the dad. It's going to be his friend from the military, the FBI agent, and the dad ended up going after each other, and not even like intentionally, but similar to that Taekwondo episode. And just because comedically, not only is that hilarious to me, doing callbacks, but doing a callback to literally one of my favorite episodes, I think that would be hilarious, especially if Barry even referenced it and was just like, oh my God, this is exactly what happened when.
Yeah, it could be a really epic finale. You know, we have all these skilled and trained people going after each other. Well, these 3, you know, so it'll be interesting.
Hopefully it's longer than 28 minutes.
God, I hope so. That's not enough.
Things are going great for Gene Cousineau outside of the one interaction with, like I said, Janice's father, but I don't think that he'll be pulled into that. Maybe he will, but I don't think he will. But as far as his streaming show, a lot of great little scenes there. You know, the director that he brought in, it's really interesting. You know, she's sort of having a little panic attacks because she hasn't done it in so long, and so she doesn't know if she's doing a good job. Everybody's telling her she's doing well. It all seems to be working out. Hope, you know, and we'll talk about, you know, Sally in a second, but I don't know where you go with these characters in another season, and that's sort of an interesting thing. Like, I mean, Sally has sort of been reset. They can do anything they want with her if they want. Gene, to a degree, has been. He's now seeing success. Things are going well for him. He's moved past everything with Barry. So it is interesting where are those two characters going to go. But specifically, before we get into the Sally stuff, where do you see Gene Cousineau's story going? Is this series going to be a huge hit? Is he going to be more popular, bigger? Is he going to get reconnected with Barry? I don't know. What are your theories?
I think that with what you just said, the being reconnected with Barry, not only is a possibility, I think that Gene has pissed off so many people just by what they've said. Him giving back to Barry is what basically got him in everybody's good graces. So to me, tying them back together for any number of reasons would make sense. And mostly just because Gene, as much as he hates Barry, he owes Barry for his entire success now. Like he literally owes Barry for everything. And I think to not shy away from that, him getting back together with Barry, whether it's a show, whether it's a where are they now kind of thing, or even if he has to have Barry on his show because ratings start to tank on his show and he wants to get his numbers back up. So he brings up the reason he basically got back into it. To me, there's a lot of ways for Gene to come back. Also, the director lady who was, like you said, having a panic attack because I think it was technology wise, because think of how there's people who shoot movies on their fucking phones now. 20 years out of the business, sound is different, lighting's it, like everything is set up differently. So technology has advanced a lot. So her being unsure of how she's supposed to be doing stuff and what she's supposed to be doing, I think could be a amazing storyline, because she could either take the credit or she could literally tank Gene as a payback kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And also it's it's just that after being out of your field for that long, you're a completely different person also. So, it's like 20 years ago, you could trust me to wire your house. You probably shouldn't let me touch your circuit breaker at this point. But as far as Gene Cousineau, I'm thinking it's a possibility. I'm not 100 on this, but this may be the end of his character. He might get caught in the crossfire and he might die. Now, and by saying that, yeah, the character may die, but we may still catch a glimpse of him because his career has been revived. Now his show is kind of classic, in a way. There's all these memorial things. So you're kind of seeing him. He's dead, but you'd still be seeing him in the show in the sense that, you see those commercials in Atlanta, that are related to things that you've seen in the show. You see like an ad with Gene Cousineau. You see like a section from his show in the show is sort of like a meta thing. But
it'd be so good if they did like a tribute to, and then they had somebody else playing Henry Winkler.
right.
And then they brought in like Barry to talk about it and stuff. So it's like this whole documentary about Gene's life.
Yeah, and honestly, that could be the uniting force that doesn't necessarily bring him and Barry back together, but that brings Barry and Sally back together for a project, because her career is flatlined, and
it should be Ron Howard should play him.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying that that's where I'm thinking it's going to go. He may die this season because he's made amends with a lot of those people that are angry at him, and it's almost like a final goodbye in a way. There's been a lot of serious scenes with Gene Cousineau.
That's true, because you make a good point. I mean, at this point in a series like this, it seems like you would want someone major to go out. Plus, like you said, he could still pop up, and whether it's a flashback, dream, whatever, those commercial ideas, or even just the series he's shooting. I mean, it makes sense because what else do you do with him? Because you're right, he seems to have had a full arc as a character, and he's in a good place. So yeah, what more could you do with him? And then there's Sally, and I would love to see the behind the scenes on the elevator scene because she went for it, man. But Sally discovers that her assistant stole her ideas, running her own show, and she explodes on an elevator. Her assistant recorded it, posted it online, and then it becomes sort of a PR situation in the last part of the episode where she's trying to figure out what to do. She decides to put out a video response, and it results in her agent dropping her and basically being like, "Look, this ain't gonna work." To which she's like, "Well, I just told the truth," and it's like, "Yeah, that's not how this works, though." um, uh, it's interesting because I thought it was all those scenes were great. I thought that elevator scene was amazing, as far as the performance. But I was at the end, especially when her agent dropped her. I'm like, where the hell does this character go? She's done with Barry. Not only is she done with Barry, the last time she mentioned him, it was very much brushed off. Like, yeah, that's like she doesn't have any feelings for him. So it's like, okay, you're done with Barry. Fine, we're going to continue your story in Hollywood as this writer. All that's going great. Okay, now that's ended. What do you do with a character like this? Do you try to bring her back to Barry? I don't know that really makes sense. So yeah, I don't know what happens with Sally going forward.
Well, I think that because she didn't dump Barry until she started to be successful. And I think part of that was when she realized, and it was partially her student, like her, or not student, the actress playing her daughter. Until that point, she wasn't really fully aware that she was basically slipping back into old habits. Now, Barry himself didn't physically abuse her or anything, but it was reminiscent of her prior relationship. And she was just trying to make amends. She was trying to do all these things to make things right again. But she didn't have the confidence to be like, I need to get away from him until everybody kind of made her aware of how successful she was. I think her losing everything is a great way for her to start basically sniffling back to Barry. And now with Barry's revelation, when Barry changed and has become this near-death experience, maybe Barry will realize what a piece of shit Sally is, which is funny because she is an awful human being, but we're talking about Barry who's killed 60, 70 people as, this great guy, but
yeah, which is why I think they'll be forcing. I think it'll still be awkward, but I think they'll go in, like I said, on a project related to Jean together. Like she'll get cast in it, and she'll see that as her only way to ever work again in the industry, and that'll be the issue. It'll still be incredibly uneasy. It'll either be that, or in a heat of the moment situation where her former assistant is trying to apologize and saying all the wrong things. She may kill her, and she may have no choice but and potentially an accident, and have no choice but to call Barry, because Barry's the only person that she knows that's crazy enough to know how to deal with something like that.
Yeah, go back to the the scene on the couch. That's another great scene. I don't know what is like the greatest scene of this season. Like the elevator scene was very impressive. But the couch scene, and the reason I love the couch scene so much where he's explaining what he'll do to her boss is because it's a long shot, and he holds a straight face the whole time saying ridiculous shit, and she's able to hold out too. And it's like, I just don't know how you do that without laughing, and I'm sure they did quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying it's so good because you see the creeping realization on her face of who he is and everything. And as he's talking about, replacing her furniture with slightly smaller furniture,
They go crazy. But yeah, that was the episode. Like I said, there's only one left. Any other thoughts on where this is going? At least we have confirmation that there is another season, which is always a nice thing whenever you write a show and you have a cliffhanger. That there's another season right around the corner, as opposed to, I don't know who I'm more. My quick little rant. I know we got to go. If you're, I don't know who I'm more pissed at, HBO or the writing team and showrunner of Raised by Wolves. And the reason I say that is when you write a show and you write it in the way that the second season of Raised by Wolves was done, where there's no ending, and you're not 100%, hell, you're not sure at all if they're going to pick up the show. That's bullshit. And I hope somebody, Amazon, whoever, somebody needs to buy it and do another season. But
Yeah,
any thoughts on that, or Barry, or HBO, or whatever?
well, like you said, I just hope Bezos is a fan, because if Bezos is a fan, we're finishing the series.
Yeah, we'll get 6 more seasons.
Well, I think that they reference it in Barry several times with the algorithm and everything else. To me, I think there has to be a better way to kind of figure out streaming. With so much money that's being spent by consumers on that, product placement, shit. Every streaming service you watch, there's a car commercial essentially in it, or a soda that's branded sticking straight out. And it just reminds me of Wayne's World, because it's 100% true. It's just funny because that's how they make up the difference. They're not getting all their money from us as consumers. They're getting a lot from advertisements. Same thing movies do and everything else. So I'm curious as to going forward. Barry's a great show. And it's probably way cheaper to film than something like Raised by Wolves. But there's certain shows that don't cost anything to make. And I know that they have big star power. Everybody's talking about it. And then all of a sudden, like, it'll get cut, whether from Netflix, Hulu, whatever. And it's very confusing as to going forward, like how people are going to do that. Because my fear is, when you talk about Raised by Wolves, say Amazon picks it up, is it going to be the same crew, the same writing crew, the same? Because then the vision changes. And that's my fear with people picking up stuff, because Raised by Wolves isn't based off of a book, is it?
Yeah, no.
And like The Expanse it's like a book series. So him picking that up, you still have the source material.
Even if they had the same team, I would assume budget would be different. You're right, which would affect the vision to some degree. I just think, and it sucks to say it like this, but if you're running a show anywhere, and you do not have a definite next season greenlit, you have to structure it differently. You just do. You have to structure it where there's somewhat of an ending. Even you can leave some loose threads, but you can't end it the way Raised by Wolves ended season 2, where there's absolutely no ending.
Well, we talked about it a lot with Perry Mason. It was one of those where you could have tied it up like a miniseries, but dropped enough nuggets where if you wanted to pick it up and keep going, they gave you enough things to look forward to without leaving open storylines. And to me, that was a perfect template, which I think that's coming out in like a month.
Yeah, another season. Because like you said, that last, if they had canceled it, you'd have been like, okay, fine.
Be like, that was good.
But they left just enough to where you're like, oh shit, they're going to do this or they're going to do that. But I don't know. So, because they got to figure it out. Because they're, I mean, how many more subreddits are going to be created just angry about? I mean, it's almost, and it's funny because you go back in time to the days of Twin Peaks, the original canceled and pissed off a fan base, and they were upset for many, many years. And now it's every other week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, at least they're not as bad as a Netflix. Netflix is horrible about that. Absolutely. Like, it's hard. Like, they come up with a new show, it's hard to get into it unless it has like 2 to 3 seasons, because you don't know if you just wasted your time watching that one season of television.
Oh, we talked about it, Larry. That Archive 81 or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was genius, and I just got into that, and I was talking to you about both of you about how I can't wait for season 2. And I think it was Brian sent the article that
was like
said
the
it was
next day.
canceled. Yeah.
Because Spencer had been hyping it, and then you were like, "Oh shit!" You were texting like, "Oh, it's really good." And I was like, "All right, maybe I need to check it out." And then like the next day, I saw that article, and I was like, "Well, guess not." But all right, yeah, we got to wrap this up. So yeah, any last thoughts? Anything else?
No.
So yeah, look out for our season 3 finale review next week. We got Westworld and Only Murders in the Building coming up. Look out for that. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay woke.